Hey everyone, this is Dustin Mathews, and I'm so excited that you're about to listen to this show. If you are looking to increase your effectiveness online, generate more leads, generate more sales, and you want to do it in an unconventional and tried and true way, then you definitely want to check out this episode because we go deep and you're going to get a lot of golden nuggets that are going to help you increase your sales online.
Hey guys, new episode, way more customers. It's your host Bilal. On today's episode, I have a new guest. He's done $43 million in sales. He gets people to buy in masses, in crowds. He creates irresistible offers. He's hosted 3,000 events. He's an author. He's co-written a book with Dan Kennedy. And he's a mentor, a coach to a lot of superstars. And I'm super excited to have Dustin Mathews on our episode today.
Not as excited as I am to be here, Bilal. Thanks for having me, man.
Great, awesome, man. So yeah, thank you for doing this. Thank you for actually flying into your office and for this episode. So I want to start off. How's your how's your day been? With this quarantine stuff.
This particular day, I want to make sure I got you on that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been great. What's interesting right now is I'm helping my friend, and it's a completely different business. But in times like these, you just want to be of service to as many people as possible. Pay it forward, goodwill. I mean, every day you should be doing it, but sometimes you're just busy. And so my friend called me up, and he's like, "I got this idea," and I'm like, "That's awesome." And he's the author of this book called Start Ugly. And so he started ugly, and I went along for the ride, writing copy, being behind the scenes, just being of service wherever I could, playing, the chef maker, the sous chef, everything, right? And so you asked me how my day is today. We just got off another Zoom call. We just launched a PodFest masterclass series online. It's an event-based company, and for the first time ever, he's doing some online stuff, because so many people are pivoting, and been blown away by the pent-up demand. And so the big lesson and how I'm doing today, I'm doing fabulous, because when you just start taking action and you start asking, things start to happen. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to get rich overnight or get to your first $10,000, but if you don't put it out there, if you don't take that action, you don't come with service, nothing's going to happen. So get out there and do it. So I'm feeling great.
I love the energy. Would you say your business has slowed down or has it picked up because of the coronavirus?
In some aspects, one of the businesses that I'm involved in has gone down. We had to let go of some people, and that's never fun. And the reason why we did that is this is a good lesson for folks in any scenario. This is for sure unlike any other that we've been in, but any sort of like downturn or crazy turn of events, the thing that is sometimes the trickiest to do is the thing that you should do, which is you need to cut every expense. You need to really look at everything. And so we did that, and it was not fun. And because of that, it set us up to pivot. It gave us more time. It gave us some breathing room. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And so in that particular business, because of that, we have actually created some more profitability. It gave us some breathing room, and we've launched other things. In other businesses, they've actually been created from scratch. Essentially, the example I just shared with my friend Chris, he was and still is an event-based business, but out of thin air, he's got this whole division, maybe a separate company, if you will, that just was created out of nothing. And there's another one that I'm involved in that was on the back burner. Now, because of this, it is now coming to fruition. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but very interesting time to be in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just for the audience to understand, a bit about you and what you're currently working on.
Yeah. Man, I want to say a lot, but probably the biggest things that people know me for at this moment is WealthFit. And so WealthFit, Bilal, is the Netflix, as I like to say, of wealth education. And what I mean by that is budgeting, savings, how to make that money last, everything to how to take that money and invest it, and then finally entrepreneurship. And then we've got some cool like time management stuff. And so basically it's an online learning platform, kind of like Udemy or Masterclass, but we're all focused on wealth creation topics. And so that's one thing that I'm behind. As you mentioned earlier, from my past businesses, I was asked to actually bring back my IP, if you will, my specialized content, and create a new offer, if you want to call it that, called reinvent your offer. And so that's where I'm showing people how they can, quickly scale with a great offer. Or if they have something right now and it's kind of flat, not where they want to be, how to do that. And so that's a whole education business that we're building out right now as well.
Okay, so yeah, I want to focus actually about that. Like,
Yeah.
you said that in your you wrote it as irresistible offer architecture, and would you say like that's one of the most important things you need to have on top of the business, and then everything's layered beneath that?
I would say there's two things that kind of go hand in hand. You need to have an audience, and that's not even technically true because you can find joint venture partners, but you do have to talk to somebody and create a relationship and get in front of people. The thing that I'm most known for is talking about irresistible offers, and it's this. It's like, let's say you get a joint venture partner or a brick and mortar business that's going to joint venture with you, or somebody that has a list that doesn't even realize the power of info marketing or internet marketing. If you're able to put an offer in front of that tribe or that audience, you can, basically ask for money. You can get people to give you money online, as many people already know this. And so if your offer is not that great, then you're not going to have as many sales. And so I feel that an irresistible offer is one that people really should focus on. Don't focus on building like the whole business. Focus on one offer that you can put in front of somebody and ask for the sale. And Bilal, there's so many things to learn in internet marketing. I see the books on your shelf behind you. There's so many different things that you can learn, but at the end of the day, you got to get in front of people and you have to make an offer. It's that simple.
Okay, so let's say you have an offer and you want to get the audience,
Mhm.
and you're a single person, you don't have any like partners or joint ventures.
Yep.
Um, how do you build an audience? Should you like actually? I'm just gonna keep that open. Like, yeah, how do you build an audience and how do you pitch them an offer?
One of my favorite strategies, and Bilal, by any stretch of the imagination here as we do this interview, bring me some clarifying questions. But when I first got started, I was in that same spot, didn't have a list. And so one of the things that I did was I always found a way to add value, and I would get in the door somehow to somebody who did. And so I got my chops, if you want to call it that, in the seminar education business. And so I volunteered to work for free. And in exchange, I built value, I hustled, and then I started to take on more responsibility. And as a result of that, I was able now to get in front of an audience. And so my favorite strategy, especially for someone who doesn't have a lot of funds, is to go find somebody that already has a list, has a tribe, and figure out a way to deliver value and build that relationship. And now make an offer to that tribe. That's my favorite. Now, if you've got funds, then Facebook ads. I could sit here and give you a whole bunch of them. Money buys speed, and so if you do have the funds, paying for direct response advertising, whether it's a Facebook ad, an Instagram, email solo ad drops, which I know you guys talk about as well. That's how you buy speed.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that map and that blueprint.
Of
Um,
course.
I want to say like like it says that you've done 3,000 events and those are live events in person.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Before this craziness that we have upon us, it's a combination. Most of those are live events, and then there's a combination of teleseminars. Back in the day, those aren't as in vogue now. You got Zoom and all these other technologies. So that was a combination. A majority of them live events, in-person events, but
Okay.
there was some online events as well included in that number. Mhm.
Okay. So in a year, how many events do you typically do in person or
Well, well, that
online?
was back in my heyday. So there's two companies that I was involved with where we did a lot of events. The first one was called Foreclosures Daily. It was a real estate education investing seminar. And so the reason we were able to get to so many numbers is we did preview style events. And what that is a kind of like a lunch and learn or a 1 to 2 hour introductory event. I got to imagine, Bilal, your audience, your tribe, they go on to webinars. Well, before webinars, you did them in live in person, and many people still do. And so we did them at lunchtime and we did them at nighttime because we recognized we had already paid the hotel room costs, and it didn't matter if we did 1 or 3 events in that time frame; it was still the same cost. So we figured out some people can get off for lunch from work or from whatever they're doing and get over to a preview seminar. Some people had to wait till they got off at work late and then come at like 6 o'clock at night. And so what we did was we built a team of people that would actually go out and do events, sometimes going on, a lot of times going on at the same time. So we do a lunch evening in this city, and we'd have another city doing a lunch evening and another city at the same time. So to get to 3,000 events really wasn't that hard once we started scaling.
That's awesome. It's and when you had people like going out and doing this, how many people did you have on your team doing this for you?
Uh, at one given time, at the height of the thing, I think the record was 10. So we had 10 different speakers in 10 different parts of the country that were out there speaking and delivering a message, very much like a webinar script, that Russell teaches, but in a live room, a live environment, getting people to take that first step from free to now a paid opportunity. And then from there, the funnel went even deeper. And so in terms of speakers out there, record was 10. Oftentimes it was maybe 5 or 6 at one given time in a room of maybe 30 or 40 people. This isn't 1,000-person events. This was like, let's go to this city, get 30 or 40 people to show up in the lunch session, and then it'd be a little bit bigger at nighttime because more people have a little more flexibility there. And so we'd have maybe 50 or 60 in the night session, and we just ran that model.
Okay, so I've noticed you said that again for the second time. You said that you offered free value and then you moved them to the
Yep.
offer. Can you just like maybe like just give us a bit more like steps like
Yeah.
free offer to product? Like how do you bring someone through the gates of that?
Yeah, you got it. And you bring it if I'm fuzzy on details or I leave something out that you're like, hey, what about this? So again, I might be dating myself here. So this was the fun times when we were doing newspaper. And let me interrupt myself here, Bilal, and say, listen, just because I might say something's old school or it's like newspaper, like who uses newspaper? Or I'm never going to use newspaper. I get it, but the model still is the same, and that's the beauty of internet marketing or direct response marketing. It's just a formula, and if you look at the model, you can apply it to whatever the new technology is going to be. It'll be VR in the future. You'll be doing AR webinars, VR web, like it's going to be craziness. But nonetheless, what we would do is we would have a write-up in the newspaper. We would do email marketing as well, and then we had people on the ground that would invite people to a 2-hour seminar, preview seminar. Now we would also bribe them, if you want to call it that, meaning like some people, the thought of coming to a two-hour class, maybe not. But when they came to it, we would give them a gift. And I'm sure, people have seen this if they get direct mail. When you come to the eBay seminar, when you come to this internet marketing, we're going to give you a digital camera, or we're going to give you, the power pack set. And so what we would do is we would give people crazy value and educate them. And then we'd make an offer and say, listen, if you want to go more in depth in this, we've got a program that you can join. And so the value most of the time for people was the actual education of like, listen, this is possible. Here's the steps that you can take. And if you want us to help, here's how that works.
Okay, so when you bring someone over to the event, like your main goal is to like create belief that they can do this and it's possible for them.
That's right. Absolutely. And just demonstrate that the system, that there is a system, there's a methodology, there's a process, and everybody should be doing this, whether you're in fitness, whether you're in online marketing, whatever, even a brick and mortar. People want to understand what the value is. They want to see case studies. They want to see how it's going to help them. And so when you get someone live, a lot of people love that. I know right now that's a little bit trickier, especially in a live environment, but on a Zoom call, they can still do this. They want to read you. They want to get a sense of who you are, what you're about. They want to be able to trust you. And so we would do all of that in a live setting and still do to this day, barring, the situation that we're in now, to get people to go to that next step.
Okay, sweet. So let's like now move on to, how you got started into business. Like, did you have someone in your family who influenced you?
That's a great question. So my mom's was always entrepreneurial. And so she'd have side hustles. Like this is back before they invented the word, like before the word became trendy. And so she would do like ceramics. She was very creative, still is. She would do ceramics on the side, and we'd go to fairs and she'd sell it. She turned me on to eBay like back in the day. Oftentimes she was buying, and then she's like, oh, I sold some stuff. And I'm like, really? And so I jumped on it because of her. And so I always had that, but she mainly was like, she had multiple careers, so a lot of jobs. So she wasn't like a full on entrepreneur, always a side hustle kind of thing. And so I I didn't think about that much. And I was on the path to like, I went to university and I was going to go get a job. And that's when my whole world changed because I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Have you read that one?
I've read that one. I have that book. I just want to ask, what did you study in university?
You know what's interesting? Information studies. So let me break that down real quick. It's the same school that a librarian goes to. Now, here's why I did it. In school, you could say I might have had a little too much fun. I was going to be a computer science nerd guy, happily admit it, but it was too hard, meaning they wanted you to take physics and they wanted you to take like crazy math. And I'm like, whoa, this isn't fun. I don't want to do it just so I can write code. And then I found out I don't really like coding, C++ and all that. I didn't really like that.
I hate
I
that
liked
too.
I liked HTML though. For some reason, I don't know why I liked HTML. So I was actually doing that. So anyway, I sort of dropped out of that section of school and I said, I'm going to go over to the School of Library Science. Not that I wanted to be a librarian, but they had a backdoor track where it basically said, if you come and take these classes, you can, grow up in the world of wireless internet, so like Wi-Fi. And I'm like, this is going to be the age. Now I know I'm probably dating myself to you and to the tribe here, but this was right when that stuff started coming online. I'm like, that's going to be my jam. And so in that process, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then it shifted me to what I'm, to this whole story I'm unveiling
Okay.
for you now.
And did someone tell you to read that book, or you just found it in the library?
Truth be told, ex-girlfriend handed it to me. She's like, you should read this. She was a little better in school than I was, and she really took to that and got an amazing career. But I'll tell you, she handed me that book, and I read it in the car, I remember. And I didn't purposely ignore it, but I was so fascinated with that knowledge, with this new way of thinking. Because again, I was in school, I was computers. I had never taken a business class. I know my mom did the entrepreneurial stuff, but that kind of got lost in the back. And then I read this and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can control my destiny. I can become a real estate millionaire. Real estate just wasn't fascinating for me, but the idea of entrepreneurship started from that book.
Okay, so you pick up the book and you said you're reading in your car. Like, what did you do after?
I bought the other book. So once I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, he's got 6 or 7 books, maybe even more now. And so I just became fascinated and consumed. And I just remember this was with the ex, we were driving around and I just was into the book. We weren't talking because I was reading, and it didn't end up working out with that lady, and that's okay. But she gave me those books, and then I became fascinated with this. And so I went to a real estate investor club, a live event where people were meeting up and talking real estate. And that's kind of where my world, got started, if you want to call it that.
Okay, and so how are you paying for all this stuff? Going to these events and and material that you're buying to educate yourself.
At this point, I wasn't really buying a lot. I will tell you, I turned to credit cards down the road when I started really investing. So, I bought a couple books. Books are $20, so that was easy. And then they told me to go to these real estate clubs, and those were free. And that was like maybe $100 to join for the membership for a year, and you'd get to come to an event a month or something like that. And so while I was there, I made those small investments, but I recognized from the book it said, go find your rich dad. And I'm like, man, I need to go find a mentor, because when I first got there, I felt like it was the New York Stock Exchange, or at least what I think it was. They were, when I walked into this room, now this was when real estate was popping, like anybody and their brother was getting into it. And so I remember walking into this room and they were saying I got a 4-3 on block and this part. And to me, that was all garbly talk to me. I didn't know what it meant. It was like a whole different language. So I went out and I retreated to the vendor area because nobody wanted to talk to me. I didn't have any deals. I had the baby face times 100 back then. And so no one thought I had a deal. So I went to the place where people wanted to talk to, which was the vendor sponsor area, because they were trying their pitches on me. And that's where I pitched someone. I said, listen, me how to buy a house and I'll come work for free.
So you said that, you said that you want to buy a house and you were willing to work for free?
Yeah. So basically, real estate was still my thing. I hadn't yet discovered that really marketing is my passion, putting words on paper, in a podcast, however wherever you put words, wherever you communicate. I hadn't yet discovered that truly was my passion. But at the time, I was at this investor club. I was turned on by this idea that like I can control my destiny. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be a real estate investor millionaire. And so I was in that mode. And so I knew I had to find a rich dad, so to say, if you want to call it that. And that's where I met somebody that was just starting up a company, sort of a SaaS company, a software company, and they would take foreclosure information and put it online. Well, the beautiful part was they were a startup, didn't have a lot of money. And I said, listen, I'll come work for free for you, just like in the book, if you will teach me real estate. And it was there when I was learning about real estate that I discovered marketing was my true passion.
Okay, so when you start working for that company, like,
Yep.
did you not say like, hey, if you keep working for free, like it's gonna cost you money, cost you time, and you need to pay maybe, I don't know, for food, for your schooling, for your books?
Oh man, you're bringing it. You're really digging deep. So you're going to get the good stuff then, Bilal. That's what I appreciate about you. So I graduated from university, didn't have a job. I did some interviews, man. They were horrible. They were terrible. And I can see why I wouldn't have hired me back then. Just didn't know. And so I retreated back to what some people have to face. I would move back in with the parents. And so I had rent covered. I had things covered for me. And so I still had a job though. Like I used to string tennis rackets because I'm a tennis guy. I love tennis. And I would teach a little tennis. And then like anytime I could dedicate to doing this free thing, I did. And here's the thing, like here's the lesson. Anytime you can put yourself in the environment. Now it doesn't mean you have to physically be there. You can do this now on Zoom, especially. You can pick up the phone, you can send emails, and you can offer to volunteer. Um, because what happened was once I got in the environment, in the inner circle, you discover that a lot of people need help. You know, everything on the outside looks good and their business is crushing and rocking, but underneath the surface, a lot of people need help. There's fires to put out. And so for me, I was working for free and I felt it and I could see that people were interested in this. I just knew if I was there, I was going to be able to absorb and I was going to hustle. I knew I would do that. And then eventually I would start to make some money. And that's what ended up happening. Anything I ended up selling, I would get a piece of. And primarily for me, just to bring it full circle, I was selling online. Everyone else was doing old school, over the phone, in person. I was leveraging that somewhat degree I had from FSU and like doing email blasting and fax blasting back before it was, fun and popular and cool today.
Okay, and like this emails that you were sending out, is it to the SaaS company audience, or did you like create your own audience?
So what ended up happening was the guy that I was his intern. So I basically pitched a guy and I said, "Listen, hey, I'll come work for free if you show me how to invest in real estate." And he barely could turn a computer on back in that day. He was a jock, and it was a match made in heaven because I was this nerdy introverted guy. And so I taught him how to use a computer. He would make phone calls, and we would go to these little in person meetings. And I wouldn't talk. He would go and talk, and we'd make an offer. Hey, if you want to get free foreclosure listings, basically a printout of foreclosures in the area, give us your business card. I mean, this is old school. And the funny thing is it works today because you go to an opt-in page and it says, listen, if you want this checklist, if you want this, insider interview or whatever, you want this tip sheet, give me your email. It was the same thing back in the day. We said business cards or we'd have them write it down. And so what ended up happening was I would take all of those names and I try to do the OCR stuff, if you know what that is. I try to scan it in so I didn't have to type it, but sometimes I had to type it in and I put it into Excel spreadsheets back in the day. And I would do like email blasts in the BCC line. Like that's how like old school I was doing it. Then we graduated to like email autoresponder systems. And so that's how we started to build a list was in person. I leveraged the emails to get people to the next seminar and then to buy stuff.
Okay, so you mentioned like offering lists of foreclosures. Is that something that a lot of people are hungry for?
Well, everyone wants a great deal. So in that marketplace, real estate investing, this again, remember people like there was foreclosures going on and we were saying, listen, here's how to buy pennies for home on the dollar, or how to buy homes for pennies on the dollar. And again, I wasn't an expert. I just knew these were foreclosure properties, foreclosure listings. And so, at the end of the day, everyone loves a good deal, no matter if you're a billionaire all the way down to someone that's just getting started. Everyone wants a deal. And so people would give you contact information just to see like, what are these deals? Are these even real? And like, we'd give them, information. We'd give them printouts from the courthouse and they would give us their name and then we would sell because we'd give it to them like one or two. And then we'd say, listen, if you want ongoing monthly access to new foreclosures in your zip code, then it's $99 a month.
That makes sense. You gave them something valuable initially, give them
Mhm.
a little taste,
Get them
and then
hooked.
exactly. Wow.
Yeah.
So how long were you working for free? Like, was it a couple of months before you actually start making money from this?
Let me see. I want to say it was probably 90 days, honestly. And so what ended up happening was the guy I was working for, I was an intern, so I wasn't getting paid, but I was working for him essentially. And so he was smart because he recognized, man, this kid's young. He showed me how to use a computer. I should figure out a way to keep him around. So what ended up happening, I was still intimidated at the time to like sell people and talk to people. And so what he would end up doing is like, if I set up a meeting or if I did follow any excuse that he could like kind of show his partners like, hey, Dustin was in on this sale even though I didn't close it, he would do it. And so I started to like get small little paychecks, and then I was like, oh, this is cool, this is exciting. And what ended up happening is the company started to grow, and because everyone was doing old school phone and in person, and here I was doing HTML coding, and I was doing email blasts, they're like, hey, you're our marketing guy. And so that evolved into like a paying gig plus percentage, and that's how that worked.
Okay, so like when you were doing all these email blasts, like did you know what you were doing, or were you just like
No,
throwing out in okay.
no, I think about some of the emails, and quite frankly, I wasn't even writing copy at the time. And then I realized like, man, I should learn how to write copy. And what I mean by that is like understanding whether you write it down or speak into a microphone, understanding how to be influential, understanding how to be persuasive. It doesn't matter what you're selling, doesn't matter what industry in. And for life, you'll be able to use that skill. So I was fortunate to recognize that. But when I first got started, I was just all tech. It was, man, I know how to use a computer, and I just did Google searches, and I'm like, oh, we can take these emails and we can put it in here. So I would do the emails. I'd get copy from like the sales guy or the speaker, and I'd just get copy blurbs and I'd put it in there, and it worked. And so then I started to get some results, and then I started to really get into marketing and then control my own destiny.
Okay, so for the first 3 months of not getting paid, were you like, thinking of stopping or quitting, or maybe like your financial situation was getting hard?
No, no, not at all. I was so hooked. In fact, it's like when you probably discovered internet marketing, or like, if you think about it, you become consumed, and you're like, okay, I'm skeptical at first. Like, is this even real? Then like it becomes a little more real because you start educating. Then like somebody you make friends with people, someone starts getting results, and then maybe you actually make that first dollar online, and you're like, oh my goodness, right? And then you spend you hundred triple down on it, and you spend like 10 grand because you made a dollar, right? Because now you're hooked, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this works. But then you go overboard and spend so much money. You invest money in your education, which is a great move. But then you're like, oh my goodness, I only made a dollar. But then it starts to kick. So for me, and I get this, it's not for everyone. I was fortunate. I moved back in with the parents, right? I was hustling still. I still had an hourly job, stringing tennis rackets and teaching tennis. And so I just figured out in my situation, I just figured out how to make it work. And I know not everyone can do that, but they can do some form of that.
Right. So, I can see that you were doing a lot of stuff, right? Like you're saying you're willing to move back to your parents. Some people can't do that. You're willing to keep doing your day-to-day job, for
Mhm.
with tennis, and you were also willing to put in a lot of free time. So that was a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
What was your vision that you wanted to get, and being able to do all of these sacrifices?
Man, Bilal, I think it was just like the other thing I found at the same time was like personal growth. So I had a mentor at the start of this who was one of the speakers, and I'll never forget. He would give me a book and I'd read it, and then he'd ask me questions about it. And it blew his mind away because, he had spoken to a lot of people and made recommendations. And here I was, this young, hungry kid, because I had never been exposed to this stuff. It wasn't like I was reading it before. Like he'd tell me, go get a book. I'd read it. And I was like, whoa, like, I'm trying to think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like I was reading these books and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And so it was this personal growth journey for me. I was growing, I was expanding, and then I was learning marketing for me. And so I was just fascinated. I was hooked, and I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to be better. And I wanted to figure out, how do I put words into something and get people to take action, donate, come to a seminar, give me money. And that was my fascination at the time.
Okay. And like you're hungry, you're learning. How many hours of sleep are you getting at this time?
Oh man, probably less. I mean, I remember drinking a lot of Rockstar energy. You know what a Rockstar is,
Yeah.
Bilal? You do? Okay. I didn't know if I was dating myself with that one too. Um, so I remember drinking a bunch of those. I don't think I was like hustling like right now, my little routine right now, because I got kids and stuff. I get up at 4 a.m. almost every day. Some days it's like 4:30 because I'm hurting, or the baby's crying or whatever, but I get up at 4 a.m. I wasn't doing that stuff back then. I was more of a night owl type of stuff, but I don't think it was crazy. I don't think it was like I was killing myself to sleep 3 hours. Although I do remember one time where like we had something going. I went to an office. I got my little boom box with a CD back in the day, and I had techno, and I had like three rock stars, and I'm like, I'm just going to stay up all night tonight. I'm going to turn the lights off. I'm going to the office that they gave me access to, and I just cranked out on like designing web pages and emails and stuff like that. But I wouldn't do that today.
And so what was your motivation to actually let's say you did all of that. Like, did you get any positive results?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you this story. So again, I know it sounds crazy, but like I was super introverted, couldn't talk to people, and so what happened was I read a Dan Kennedy book. So you'd mentioned I'm a co-author with Dan, and so Dan really started this next level for me. It was Kiyosaki that got me into real estate, but that really wasn't my bag. But it was Dan Kennedy who taught me about putting words on paper. So what I did was he said, if there's a customer list around, the easiest person to sell is somebody that's already bought from you or a company. So I asked, is there a customer list? And they said yes. And I said, okay, great. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it into Excel. And I actually did direct mail. And so what I did was I downloaded handwriting font, so like a letter, but like that looked like you wrote it. And
Yeah.
the old school strategy at the time, which gosh, I'm really dating myself. At one point on the internet, it was like red Tahoma in your headline, and that's the thing that's going to convert. Back in the day in direct mail, it was goldenrod, which is a shade of yellow. So if you make a letter and you put it on not just white paper, but yellow paper, you send it out, man, that thing's going to convert. So that's what I did, handwriting font to people that had already bought. And I said, listen, if you'll come back and buy this other thing from the company, Probates Daily, which was another lead list of people that unfortunately were dying in their properties or were dead and their properties were in states, we'll give you a discount. Now, I didn't drive it online. That wasn't the thing to do back then. I drove it to a salesperson, and her name was Tangi. And so Tangi's phone blew up because I didn't want to talk to anybody, right? Like I just wanted to do the marketing, make money somehow. And so Tangi's phone started blowing up, and she's like, boy, I don't know what you did, but you're my new best friend, because she was making cold calls, right? And she had to do outbounds. I was having people call her cell phone for the discount, and then we'd split the commission that way. And so that's my story. I forgot why we said that story, but I think it answers your question.
So that was the story behind you staying up late at night with the three Red Bulls, the Rockstars?
No, I forgot what you had asked me before, but the story, what I wanted to communicate, like I was afraid to do something, and so I pushed it to a salesperson, and I still got a result. So like that, that's what your question was. Like, what was the result that got me hooked? Well, that result hooked me because I wrote a letter, sent it off, and an action happened. People started calling in. And I was like, whoa, this is like magic. Remember, I never took business. I never took psychology. I didn't know about selling at the time. And I'm like, wow, I wrote a letter, I sent it out, and it magically people started calling in. Like I made that happen. And so I became fascinated and hooked. And that was the win that, has kept me going.
Okay. And that result, you got that after like 3 months?
At that time, so I had been volunteering. We had moved offices. I want to say that was about 6 months afterwards. So 3 months, I was just tagging around with this guy. They had a really small office. Then they moved across the bay in Tampa, and they moved into a big office. I was now like dubbed the marketing guy. So I was working on this campaign. And I would say that was about 6 months in. And I had to split those commissions. And then after that, things started to get interesting for me at that particular venture. So.
Awesome. So these sales copies and sales letters, are you learning from somewhere, or are you just like, how are you getting it from the salesperson? You said you got it from someone who did it before?
Well, two things. I picked up another book by Dan Kennedy called The Ultimate Sales Letter, and that I started learning it. And then one of the things, because I didn't understand copywriting at that point, even before that book. And so one of the things I did is I just looked at the best salesperson, I try to see like what flyers they were using or what follow-up emails they would use. I would get that, fortunately, from them because I was the marketing guy. So they'd send that to me. I'd kind of digest it, and I didn't really know what I was looking at, but I'd copy certain things and I'd paste it. Like a hodgepodge Frankenstein sort of sales letter, if you will. And so um, once that started happening, I started to get some results. And then I said, okay, what else can I get from them? And sometimes they would take and transcribe, they'd have someone like transcribe their speech. So then I started looking at that and looking for things to like kind of put in still. And that's how I started getting better at it.
Okay, so I can see you're doing a lot of stuff. You know, you're getting creative. You're trying transcribing. You're
Yep.
looking at salespeople. You're getting information that you're not good at. You're going out and looking for it and getting it to get that result.
Yep.
How did you like I can see like how were you so motivated to get the result and actually find solutions like getting sales copies from your salespeople, getting information of other people who are successful. How did you get that motivation to be able to do that to get the result that you wanted?
Well, I think it was just like, for me, this was a whole new world. This was a whole new, I mean, I guess I had that pressure, right? Like here I was, I graduated school, I had a degree, but I had nothing going for me. So I guess in the background that was there, wanted to prove it to my dad, prove it to my parents. So like, I think we all have some form of that where our backs are against the wall or we're just tired, sick and tired of our situation. So that was in the background. But the thing that really calls to me, I'm more of a positive minded guy. The thing that really called to me, like this was a new fascinating world and I was hooked. It's like when you play a video game for 24 hours straight, if you've ever done that, or at least, all night, like you become hooked, you become fat. It's like, I just got to get to that next level. I just got to get to it. That's what was driving. I had never, like, I know it's crazy, but like, I never took a sales class. I never took marketing. I did all the tech stuff in school. And so when I found out about this, I was just fascinated. And I think what else was good now that I'm thinking about it, I was very fortunate to either have books around me or have access to the books and have mentors. Like whether or not they were officially my mentor, but like people that were trying to figure it out, they'd share a little piece and I'm like, oh, it's like a puzzle. So I go talk to this person, I get this. That guy's crushing it over there. Let me see what he or she's doing. And I put it in. And so I don't know if there's a magic answer I can give you, Bilal, but like to me, it's like find that thing that lights your fire, that passion, and like you're gonna run through walls. Like it's gonna be 2 at night, and you're gonna be tired, but you're like so jacked up and excited. You've got it. Your job is to find that and discover that.
Awesome. So, what do you say to people like, for example, who are taking like course after course after course and buying books and books and books, and they're just trying on all these different things and nothing's really like turning out for them. They're not getting any
Yeah.
positive ROI.
Yeah, that was me. I remember buying a ton of stuff, and I was fortunate because I got to test on other people's dime. So basically, any marketing cost this company was paying. So I was very fortunate. So if you can find that similar situation, whether it's free or you're getting paid, the big thing that I'll want people to double underline or star or however you're thinking about this, put yourself in the environment. So I look at that company that I was with. I look at the next company that I started that was Speaking Empire. And even before that, I was doing these product launches online, made famous by Jeff Walker, those kind of style stuff. And so every time I looked at it, I was in a crazy environment. So let me break that down. When you do a live event, there's a deadline, right? And so you got to do a bunch of stuff before. And then if you're smart, you do a bunch of follow-up stuff to make money. A product launch, it's the same thing online, right? So you got a bunch of events, a bunch of affiliates, you've got a bunch of milestones to hit, and then you follow up. The next company was event-based, Speaking Empire. All of these things were crazy, chaotic environments with tight deadlines. And so if you're reading books after books after books, you have a luxury of time, is what that tells me. What I would say is read enough and then put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, however you have to do it. Whether you set a deadline for yourself to do that product launch and it's going to look ugly and it's going to look bad and it's not going to be perfect, or you're at a company that has these crazy tight deadlines, is crazy and chaotic. That's where you're going to learn the most. Said a different way, test in a small window. That experience that you get from that is going to kill any book because you're going to learn from the real world versus book. And so I'm not saying don't read a book to prepare for that, but I'm just saying get yourself in that crazy chaotic environment. You're going to learn a ton.
Okay, so let's say you're on step two now. So step one was you're inspired, you're motivated. So now you're
Yep.
learning a lot, you're reading a lot of books, taking a lot of courses. Now you're in the mode of you're in the chaotic environment like you described. You're trying all these different things, right? You have your hands in here, you have your hands here, you have your hands everywhere. And like, how do you test in a way? Do you have like a method of testing in a way to like make sure like do this much to get a test and then do more of it? Or like do you have a method of saying like just test all these different platforms and then look at like at the end where you're getting a positive indication of something working?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say a good question. When you're first getting started, just get something out the door, meaning you've got to put an offer in front of an audience. And so you break that down. I don't have an audience. Okay, I got it. Make an offer, learn, study, read a book, right? You got a couple books behind you there. Read a book that shows you how to do that. Put together an offer, and it's going to be ugly. That's fine. If you're fortunate, join some Facebook groups or whatever groups, get people to review it, give some feedback, add value there too, so that people are inclined to do that. Then it's like, okay, next step is I got to get in front of an audience. Well, how am I going to do that? Again, join a group, offer to volunteer, or just build it yourself. By commenting, or if you've got a little bit of money, Facebook ads, or paying for a solo email ad. That can be pretty quick. And at the end of the day, you have to make an offer and you got to put it in front of people and see what results. Did you bomb? Okay, great. Go back and look. Are the links working? Is the copy right? Did they send it, at the wrong time? Those sort of thing. As you start to get more advanced, then there's a whole nother world of testing, which is you take the list, you divide it into to half, or to divide it into thirds, and you run this open, this subject line, you run this one, and the other one, you run this one, and then you see the results of it, and you pick a winner at the end of it. And so I think for the sake of most people listening in, the answer is go ahead, get your offer, put it in front of an audience, and see what kind of results you get. That's your test. That's what I mean by a test. Put it out to the world, see the results, and then figure out how to plus it next time.
Yeah, so most people like they're motivated, they want to learn. So a lot of people are like that, but I think the number one like area where most people fail is at the testing part. It's
Mm-hmm.
because like they're trusting a lot of stuff and they're getting a lot of negative feedback. They don't know if it's working, they don't know if it's not working,
Yeah.
they're losing money. So how do you get someone to get out of that, that phase?
Yeah. There's a couple things I will say. Listen, I want to encourage people. You don't have to be a great copywriter. I want to give you an example. This summit that I'm in the midst of right now, this podcasting summit, this software that we use, it's great now. The tools and resources they have. It's a virtual summit software, and Bilal, a lot of the stuff that you and I have learned about how to market online, sometimes VSLs, sometimes long form sales letters, that sort of thing, was not used in this. And so essentially what ended up happening, and again, we started ugly and we put this together in less than a week, the marketing of it, picked a date and said, let's go. And so by everything that we've been taught and we've learned, you would say it's wrong. And so we sent an email, we sent a couple emails out, drove people to an opt-in page to be part of this free summit. And we simply said, listen, if you want to upgrade for $49, here's what you're going to get. No, just 6 or 7 bullets. That's it. 6 or 7 bullets. And so about 10% of the people that opted in for this summit bought this thing at $49. Now, I would have told you this didn't work. And so again, you got to get something in front of people. You got to take a swing here, and then you like keep getting better. And so the other thing I want to share here is you don't have to be a great copywriter. And so I'll tell you, I would rather have someone who's fanatical about testing. What I mean by that is they're willing to like siphon some of the traffic and send it to A and B and do it again and be consistent about it over a copywriter, because over time you're going to beat the copywriter. A copywriter is going to have bias. Copywriter is going to think a certain way. And oftentimes you'll not convert as good over time because you're taking someone's opinion versus what the market is saying. People vote with their wallets. And so I want people to know that, listen, if you'll just be fanatical, you don't have to be a great copywriter, but just think of a couple different headlines, which you can literally swipe from other people and test it and see what works for you.
Okay, so I really like that idea you had about like swiping headlines from other people.
Hmm.
And you said that you got your sales letters also from people who've done it before.
Yeah.
So from people who do want to get that information to test it out, what are
Mhm.
good ways to see what's working in the market?
So what I like to study product launches and things that keep getting promoted. So a couple things. So I always set up an email account, not my normal email account. I always set up like I don't even know what the term, like I don't call it a dummy account, but just another catch-all box. And I subscribe to a lot of people's marketing in a lot of different niches too, not just internet marketing, not just event space, not just in real estate, and like weird ones, political and like chiropractic, and so I have this inbox of stuff. And so I might get an idea for something like I want to run a sale or I want to do a virtual online event. I'll type that in, right? Google's great at that. Type it into my Gmail, this account, and then I'll pull up all this copy. And so I'm able to have like a swipe file of copy that I can use. Now, I'm not saying use it word for word, but use it for inspiration and make your own, add your own sauce, because people are going to keep coming back to you for your personality or your company's personality. So add that. And so what else is working? I like to kind of sign up for these product launches that go on that will share, hey, this person's got 1,000 opt-ins. This person made, a lot of sales. And I like to see behind the scenes of what's working. And then I get a sense of, okay, that's working. So I should pay more attention to that.
Okay, so that's genius for you how you do that. You get behind all these emails. Uh,
Hmm.
so let's say that you do have all these emails that are coming in. How do you know like this email that was sent out is actually working and this funnel is actually working?
You don't. I mean, I guess the way that you do is if you're really a student, you can see if you've received this email in some form or fashion. What's always interesting to me is to look into this email account and then kind of go through there and look at different subjects, open lines, because what you may notice when you do this is you'll see people testing. And so you'll see one subject line and the body is the same as another, except for the subject line. And so you can see like they're testing. And so you might not know what's working, and that's okay, because if you're just getting started, you got to put something out to the world there. The way you can find out what's working is being a part of mastermind groups, whether that's on WhatsApp or Facebook or actually in person or Zooms or however. And you can just, give feedback and get feedback there. Hey, this worked for me. And, share that. So at the end of the day, people might say, hey, this is crushing, this is rocking. You've got to test it for yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that valuable tip.
Yeah.
So let's say now you're testing out stuff. How do
Hmm.
you? Because let's say a lot of stuff are working, but very small amount of it.
Yeah.
How do you like? Do you think that it's better to focus on one thing at that time, or do you think it's still better to focus on all these like 5 or 10 different areas? As when you're starting out an entrepreneur, you're doing a lot of stuff, right? So what do you think will be the best thing
Yeah.
to do?
Let me give you a real case story. I have some friends that reached out to me, and they've been very successful. They've been very successful with their messaging offline. So they do a lot of PR. They do a lot of live events. They do article marketing and stuff like that. And so they've invested with people like funnel agencies and other people that have consulted them, and nothing's really hit. And so that's concerning to me, because like I don't want to be the next guy in line. And so I went about it a different way, and I said, listen, I don't know if this will work, but let me get in there and let me see what I can make happen. And this is a way also too to get in. So like I didn't charge them anything up front. Some people might say, hey, this is crazy. These are my friends. I'm willing to help them. And then also too, I didn't want to get involved in something that was going to be like a one-time payday. I wanted perpetual income. And it took me a lot of years to realize that, because I would always chase like, give me a 5 figures up front. But I said, listen, let me get in. And so I started investigating, and they said nothing was working. And so I went to their sales page. They had this little assessment, this little quiz, and people were coming to that. Like this thing's still getting viral traffic, meaning like they do no marketing other than like the SEO that's out there. They've kind of slowed down that business. And so this assessment, like it's one of those where it's like, well, if Bilal, you're a quick start personality, do you want to find out what your brother is, or do you want to find out what your business partner is, share this test with them or something like that. So it has a viral component. It's okay, but no sales were being made. I'm like, man, this is crazy. So the first thing, I go and I look at their order form page. Link's broken. I'm like, okay, well, the reason why you're not getting orders, I think, is this link is broken. How long is it? We don't know. I'm like, okay, well, let's fix it and let's see. Fix it. no orders. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the offer still sucks. So, okay. Next thing, I installed ClickTail on there, or Crazy Egg, I think is the one I went with, which is like heat mapping software. Because I'm like, something's wrong here. Bilal, they were having like 300 to 400 people a month come to this assessment and fill it out, meaning they invested 5 minutes of their time. It didn't cost anything. They invested 5 minutes of their time. And I said, man, that's almost like a bigger investment than like just an opt-in, right? Like, give me your name and email and you get this. They were answering questions. So they had this commitment. And I'm like, man, you can do a whole lot of things around, but by the law of numbers, you're going to get some sales, like in 300 to 400 people opting in and spending 5 to 10 minutes to do this. Something's weird. So I installed this ClickTail software and I didn't really learn anything there, so another dead end. So then I said, hey, listen, what else can you tell me? And so I found out they had taken this survey 2 months ago or 2 years ago. And it was like, what's the top thing you're looking for? Budgeting. Well, the thing that they were offering was not budgeting. It was more about like relationship advice. And so this is in the financial space. So again, I'm like getting this information. I said, listen, they had this other course and they had the ability, they did it on a platform called WealthFit, our platform. And they had the ability to discount it down to $9. I said, listen, why don't we take your WealthFit course, just cut out everything else, this page that you have there. Let's just give them a crazy offer from 49, which is what we sell our courses for, down to 9. And let's just see if there are signs of life. And so we're about to engage that. So when you ask me, hey, how do you test? How do you think through it? That is the process. So I look to see, are the links working? I install some software to see if I can get some more intel. I ask more questions if I have the ability to do it. And so that's a little weird because how are you going to ask yourself that? Maybe you get a mastermind partner. Maybe you get a buddy and accountability that like you analyze their stuff and then vice versa. And I do that a lot. And so I just simply asked them, I came up with this idea and I'll tell you, it may not convert. I may bomb on this, but I'll tell you this. If this thing doesn't convert at the $9, like they've invested 5 minutes of their time, it's $9. It's the thing that I think they want. Then like I'm probably out of the deal, right? So I would just simply walk away from this deal. Or what I may do is say, listen, let's ask them a question. What's the biggest thing? You completed the survey, it's on your inbox. What's the biggest question you have around finances? I'll get all that data, I'll take a look at it, and then we'll probably build a product around that.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thank you for clarifying that. So I like the word you said. You said looking for signs of life. Let's say you build your entire funnel. You have your headline, you have your video, you have all the points that they can get to take this offer. You put it up online, but you don't get any leads.
Well, I'd ask you, how many people came to your page?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question.
So you need to know your number. So like a lot of people have opinions in marketing and I certainly do, but at the end of the day, it all should come down to stats. And I know that it can be like confusing. It's like, oh man, I tried all this stuff, but it didn't work. I know that's a punch to the gut and I hate it too, but here's what I would tell you. Go back to the numbers. So every step, meaning like open rates. Like let's say you do an email. How many people open? Great. Next step. How many people clicked? Great. Next step. How many people made it to your landing page? Okay, great. Because sometimes those numbers are different. Clicks to landing page, it's weird, but you just want to double check because maybe there's some tech breaking, right? It's registering a click, but they don't actually make it. Google's broken. Something's broken. How many people opted in? What's the conversion rate? 1%? Is it broken? I don't know. Maybe the offer's bad. Maybe it's not optimized for mobile. And then you go to the next step, all the way to the point of the sale. A lot of people just like do all this activity and then they get no results and they say, oh, it just doesn't work. Or they just like, man, I feel so dejected. And the thing is you got to be like Sherlock Holmes. You got to be like a scientist. You got to look at like every single step and just keep moving down the line until you get to the point where it gets interesting or a sale or whatever it is that, your call to action.
Okay, so let's say you build the funnel and you haven't gotten any leads, but you haven't even gotten any traffic. Like you see that there's zero traffic on it.
Yeah.
Does that tell you like the offer is bad?
It might. So if we're doing, let's say we're doing an email, a solo ad where you pay to sponsor an email, I would simply ask, did the email go out? Number 2, did anyone open the email? Number 3, what list was it? Maybe it was a health list and you're selling internet marketing. I don't think people interested in health might, they're probably not looking for internet marketing, although I would say a small percentage would. And so, Something was wrong. I was like, what's that? So that's what I would say. I would go back and look at the point. Did the ad run? If so, did people click on the ad? And then if they didn't click on the ad, is it running to the right audience? Because at the end of the day, you can screw a lot of things up, but if you've got enough people, and 100 oftentimes is a good test. If you've got 100 people that have landed on your landing page and haven't opted in, you need to change something, or it's the wrong list. It's the wrong audience.
Okay. So for someone who's in the fitness industry and who wants to get way more customers,
Yep.
so they set up a funnel and like what could be in like an attractive offer someone can come up? And I know I'm just asking just
Yep.
like that right now. So
Workout plan. It could
yeah,
be
like
recipes. It could be, a lot of times people think they have to create a whole bunch of stuff. A great case study that I like to talk about is Eben Pagans. He was in the dating niche, may still be. And his big giveaway was how to know if a girl is ready to accept your kiss, or to know if she's kissable, or, like how to know when to kiss a girl. Well, like for a lot of guys, single guys, you may be a little, nervous. They're not the bravado macho that are, just going to lean into it, but maybe a little shy, right? It's this girl they like. It didn't say that it's a PDF. It didn't say like, let me give you a video on it. It's like, hey, opt in for this one thing. And it's so attractive. It's so interesting that people are like in this space. They want to know, like I would want to know. And so they give them the email. And then on the next page, it's just a sales letter that explains, here's how to know. And then it explains, listen, now that you know that, you've got a new problem. And the way to solve that problem is to buy this product or service, to cut it bluntly. So in the fitness niche, what's the one exercise routine that's going to help you trim whatever? It could be, what's the recipe plan that helped me lose, 15 pounds this summer? What's the one piece of, gym equipment you shouldn't touch, or, something like that. Very curiosity driven. Or you can just say, here's the thing that made me successful and I want to give it to you.
okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing, tips
Yeah.
in all those different industries.
Yeah.
So someone to make who's looking to make $10,000 a month,
Yeah.
for a lot of people who are in the fitness or just online business, right? For
Yeah.
them, like they feel like it's very far away. Have you helped people scale to that much, or even like way higher than that?
Yeah. It starts with an offer. So a lot of people think, 10,000 is a lot. And I remember when I first got started, it's like, man, I was just happy to get that first dollar. And then it took a long time to get to $10,000 a month online. And so what I would say is just keep working on that offer. And so here's been my trajectory. I started off, I created an offer. Sometimes I built that list myself by doing live in-person events, or doing like cross promo JV webinars with people, calling in favors. Like I'd review their marketing. I say, hey, listen, if I do this, I normally would get paid for this, but like all I want you to do is send an email. I'm actually doing a deal like that right now, where a client of mine had come upon hard times from the pandemic. I said, great, I'm still, I want to help, right? I want to, provide value to you. I don't want to just leave you hanging because you can't pay me anymore. And so let's do a deal like this. I want to be able to send 3 emails right now to your list, which we just did, promoting WellFit. And then I'll help you and build value. And I want a percentage of those sales. So you'll pay us when we make sales. And then I want to promote again to the list. And so I was able to capture this list. Essentially, it's not my list, it's his list. And I was able to get access to it that way. So you can be creative. So again, the trajectory can be very simple, of like, start with your own list small and then keep going. Then get into joint ventures. That was my next step, is to find other people that are like-minded online, Facebook groups, in person, and then help each other out. Do summits, virtual summits, put together joint venture webinars or joint venture swaps, and start building your list that way. Because what you want to look for is your offer converting. When it does, and you've got some funds, now you need to figure out the traffic. And once you have something that converts, not to say like JV offers are going to convert the same way cold traffic, like Facebook ads and Instagram and all other forms of paid media. However, you just want to have that confidence, that peace of mind, saying, listen, I tested it over here. I know it's working. Let's run some cold traffic to it and let's optimize it. And then once you do that, it's simply you put money in and you get more money back out. And so that's how you scale. You just got to keep at it, and don't give up, because those who test are going to win. Those that have that stamina. And listen, it's not fun to look at a negative bank account. It's not fun to see all the money go out the door, but you better darn well be looking at the data, because that's your education. And what I mean by data is like, what are all the numbers saying? oh, it didn't opt in or nobody's clicking. Great. Let's change the copy. Let's change the video.
Okay, and how do you help someone to fall in love with the process?
What immediately just popped into my mind was the why. So thinking about like what someone's why is. So maybe they're like I was, they were living in their parents and they're like, man, I got to prove it to mom and dad. I got to prove it to myself. And so it's not easy when like you don't have a bunch of money. But if you remember that, like what you're going after, what you're chasing, that can help you get through the process. Because some people are going to love the creative. Some people are going to love the numbers. Like I had to learn to love the numbers. I didn't like them at first. I just wanted to be creative and write my letters and, all that sort of thing. But I had to learn to love it because I knew what my end goal was. And so I don't know that I can make people fall in love, but maybe just come at it from a different perspective. Like what's your why? Or just chunk it out. Like, hey, let's just win this game of opt-ins and then let's work on sales.
Okay, wow, that makes so much sense. The reason I asked for the love of the process is just because a lot of people, everyone actually tries a couple of things. They realize they're bad or they get negative feedback and they want to quit, because no one likes to receive negative feedback.
Yeah.
So when you said looking at your why, like a lot of people want it, but they get distracted. For example, they want to work on their plan, but they go in the living room, the TV's on, it's maybe an episode like they really enjoy. 2 hours go by, they come back, they're not as motivated. So how do you remind yourself of your why?
This is a good one. I think a couple things. Goals. So for me, I like to print stuff out. So goals being printed out. I have a journal that I keep to help remind me and keep me on track. I have it in my phone too. So like I'm not like a one way, like it has to be written in a journal on paper. I like to have information around me. That's how I roll. Some people probably can get away with like one thing. They just write it once and they just start creating it in life. For me, I'm still working on that. So I like to have it all around me to remind me. And then like I think life generally has that built-in thing. So at the end of the month, if the money's not where you want it to be, you look at that and you're like, holy crap, I need to get into gear. The other thing is distractions. And I know people have heard this and I had to remember this because when this thing first struck, this crazy pandemicness struck, like you get all this news and like, I used to never watch news but it became so addicted. Like I wanted to tune into this reality show of the pandemic that was taking place. And so, I had to remember, like, I got to shut all that stuff off, all the distractions, and I just got to focus. And it's funny, I was just working on a webinar script, 2 hours, word for word. Generally, when I present, I'm kind of free flow like this, but I'm like, this is important. Let's script it out word for word, like a finely tuned sales letter. And I had to shut off all the distraction. And when I got going, like it just started building and it started building, and I got this excitement. But that excitement didn't happen originally because I was procrastinating. I was letting Facebook get me. I was letting text messages, the news, all this stuff hit me. And so that was how I've been able to do it as of recently.
Awesome. So I want to ask now, like, if you had to like name 3 softwares that really helped you in your business, previously or currently right now, if you had to name just like 3 softwares or tools that you can think of your mind, what would they be?
ClickFunnels, and it's funny because I was around before that was even created. In fact, Russell and I did a few seminars together back in the day, internet marketing seminars, way before he had that software. So, but it's made it so easy for me. It's made it so easy for people to just get something up and roll an offer out. So that's number one. Number two, back in the day, I used to use and help clients now with Infusionsoft. So just a CRM, which I understand like ClickFunnels has evolved if you upgrade and do whatever the next package is. So I think they have a CRM sort of thing where you don't need it. But I've always used Infusionsoft as my main hub and just attach things to it to make it work. And so that's the beauty of all software now, is a lot of them talk to each other. And so it doesn't matter as much. It's just like you being integrated. And then the third one, oh man, what's the third one? Slack for communication if you've got teams, especially virtual. But I would say this, because people are going to love this, good old fashioned Google Docs. I'm still amazed. Maybe I'm in a culture, maybe I'm around a lot of people that use Google Docs. But every now and again, like I'll come into a client and they're sending me Word attachments. And I'm like, you have a team and you're sending emails with Word attachments and things are changing I'm like, why not make this a living, breathing document? spreadsheet so people can go update stats, copy, Google Docs. So not anything revolutionary there, but like, hey, it's free. Use it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing those offers. So I want to talk about like maybe if you can share a story of like how sometimes like you receive feedback that was negative. Someone told you a no, this is not possible, you can't do this,
Yeah.
and then you still pushed on through it, and then it really helped you scale your business and really flourish.
I remember being a part of a mastermind very, very young. I was formerly known as the king of unsecured loans, and I went to Party City. You know what a Party City is, Bilal?
No.
You don't have that up there? Party City is like where you can go get like party favors and Halloween candy and like kids' birthday party stuff. Like it's just a store with a bunch of like party stuff. I remember going and getting this crown hat, velvet, right? And that was my shtick. And so I was basically, I met somebody in a mastermind, another mastermind, and they were an expert in how to get business lines of credit. And so again, I was a little still nervous about being out in front. I was still, a little concerned. And so what I did was I teamed up with them. They were an expert. They used to do it as a service. And I said, let's turn this into an info product we can do online. They're like, great, but I don't know all the stuff you do. I'm a business credit expert. I'm like, uh-oh, I got to be out in front now. So I went to Party City. I got this obnoxious king hat. I created these videos online. And one of the things that I brought to the mastermind is like, hey, so excited. This guy helped me get $93,000 in business credit cards. Like I'm living proof. I was 25 at the time, living proof. I need to get this information to the world because I wish everyone had access to business credit cards. And they came at me and they're like, listen, you look 12, because I had the baby face even worse back then. So that's that you look 12, which isn't the end of the world for people that have that baby face, that young face. So don't let that hold you back. Two, you're talking about money. You're calling it unsecured loans, which basically means you don't have to put up collateral. It's a good thing. But like to the layman, to people that don't know, you're young. You're talking about unsecured loans. You're wearing a king hat in your head, and the mastermind, like I wouldn't cut. Like these were older people, to me at the time, and they're like, I wouldn't even get near you. And like it hurt because I'm like, oh man, I'm doing all this internet marketing stuff, and like, and they were right, and they read me, and I'm so glad they did, and I'm grateful because had I gone out, I would have lost a lot of money. Like I was doing all this stuff, we were spending money on ads, but had I not polished it up and cleaned it up before I went to the real world, I'd have lost a lot of money.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that story.
Absolutely.
I want to ask now, like, three people that you really look up to in marketing, in business, in sales. Yeah, just who's inspired you and who's motivating you?
Number one, Bilal. Man, here's why. Like I'm always appreciative and grateful, and I think so many people should be as well, for those that create platforms, for those that put content into the world. And like, you might not be somebody like you would see on TV or a YouTube star in terms of stature. And I'm not saying you, Bilal, but I'm just saying people in general. You might not ever get to that point, but that's okay because like, I mean, if you come with the mindset of I'm going to change one person's life, right? And you make a profound difference in their world, whether it's lose weight or make money or get them in the best shape of their life or whatever it is, man, just think about the power of that. So many people just, go to a job and, crunch numbers and all that. And like, that doesn't, kudos to them, but like that doesn't really make a difference. And so what I would say is people that have platforms, I'm always grateful for. And so having me on and putting out information, it does take cojones to do it, because you're setting yourself up for ridicule, comments, and I don't like that guy's hair, and like, that's a weird name, and like all that stuff, right? It takes something. So I want to give you some love. So who else do I look up to? I got to give props to my mentor, Dan Kennedy. He's a fellow co-author. This was a guy, I read his book that changed my life. And then to actually write a real on legit book published by a publisher, Entrepreneur Press, with him 10-ish years later, man, that was just an honor. So he made a profound impact in my life in doing that. And then there's another individual as of recently, Bilal, that I'm going to go a little woo-woo on you. He's come into my life. He helped me exit a prior business. He helped me reinvent myself. And he just helped me like kind of channel my energy, if you will, or like my mindset, meaning like as an entrepreneur, we go so fast and we want to like crush and we got a lot of ego and like, at least I did, I should say. And so I was like chasing the thing. And like, I just realized like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And so that's my coach now that I still work with. His name is Bill Heinrich. And where this all started, the last one, if you want that bonus one, which isn't a specific person, but I'm a real big fan of Stoicism now. And it's, if you haven't, Ryan Holiday's got a few great books around them. And it's this idea like thousands of years ago, these Stoics would write, these crazy pieces about how one ought to conduct their life. And the funny thing is like they're facing the same stuff we are. They're chasing fame, they're chasing fortune, people are dying. They had pandemics, right? All this stuff. They had bad relationships and people steal from them and all this stuff, right? And so it's a playbook. How do you navigate the ups and downs of life? And it's really helped me grow as a person, a father, an individual, and I highly recommend it. So Stoicism as a mentor.
Awesome. So thank you for sharing the love to me and those speakers that influenced you.
Absolutely.
I want to ask, like, how did you know that Dan Kennedy was like someone you wanted to work with, and how were you fortunate enough to actually write a book with him?
Environment. I mean, it goes back to, a lot of stuff is very cyclical. It goes back to what I did. So I read that book, my eyes were open. So it takes an eye opening. I went out and I started doing what he told me to do in these books. And I started getting results. And then I said, oh, I need to go learn more. And again, if you think about it, that's a lot of people's journey, right? Like their eyes are open, they go out, they try something, maybe they fail, but then they're like, oh, I'm going to give it another shot. They get a small win. They're like, whoa. So then they go all in. So I went through that same thing. And then quite frankly, the blunt answer is I just gave him a lot of money. And what I mean by that, I bought his books. Then eventually I made it to a seminar. Eventually I bought, $2,000 programs online and offline because he's old school. He likes those manuals. And then I joined his mastermind, which was another big investment. And it was in that environment, right? Like I kept getting closer to him and I had to pay for it. But I was getting results. I was giving him more money. I got into that mastermind and got the opportunity presented to me because he already had a couple books out and was looking for the next one. And he wanted people that had a platform and an audience. And so that's when I said, I'd be interested in that. And that's how we did. But it wasn't like I pitched him out of nowhere. He already had a track record. He knew me. And so many people want to skip those steps. And believe me, I do too, but it's just not how it works. Like you gotta get in, you gotta put your time in some places. And yes, you can escalate right to in a lot of cases, but at the end of the day, you still got to build a relationship however you go about doing it.
Wow. Thank you for shedding the light on that. I read a quote on your Instagram post, and on it you said, your key to success is your daily routine, and you said, develop good habits and let go of bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you just elaborate a bit more on that, and like why is that so important, and why do you why is that your favorite quote, and why is that so important?
Yeah. I mean, to come at this a different way because it says what it is, but what happens is, the habits, and this took me a long time to figure out, the habits that get you to where you are not the same ones that are going to get you to the next level. So if you think about it, let's say you have a job, you kind of come from that world, you got a job right now, and you want to be an entrepreneur. There's a certain level of thinking, and a lot of people break through. Bilal, you're helping a lot of people like make that transition, or you're helping the entrepreneurs make more money. Online entrepreneurs make more money, and so if you think about it, let's just say you got a job, right? But you break through, right? You listen to the podcast, you work with Bilal, and you start making money. You leave that job behind, right? So there's now new habits that you have to, and old habits that you got to get rid of. And then you start getting some success. You get to 10 grand a month. Well, great. If you're going to keep growing that business, and you're fine to stop there. No one's telling you have to keep going, but a lot of people want to keep going. And the next thing is you're this internet renegade fitness entrepreneur, and like you're on top of the world, but you burn out and you're stressed out. You got to get rid of the habit of owning everything and controlling everything. You got to hire that employee. Oh crap. Now you got to be a leader. You got to lead by example. So if you think about it, that quote is you got to adopt new habits, but you got to leave the bad ones behind. And it's tough because it's like, man, I've been doing this. That's what got me here. That's why I'm a 7-figure earner. Well, if I want to get 8 figures and beyond, I gotta get rid of the bad habits. Even though they were successful, they got me here. It's just not going to serve me in that next thing. And so I think that's the underlying thing that most people don't realize or know when it comes to that quote.
Okay. And when you say like, your key to success is daily habits or daily routine, how important is that? Like why is that important to be
It's
consistent in routine?
It's everything. I mean, I don't know about other folks. I haven't asked a lot of folks about this, but I'm kind of like, my wife kind of makes fun of me a little bit. I'm kind of an all or nothing guy. I don't generally sit in the middle, and that might just be me. It could be entrepreneurs. I haven't really asked others about it. I'd be curious to know. But if I start like skipping out on something, seeing my kids, or like skipping out on, not, I guess I wouldn't be skipping out, but like eating bad foods, it's going to be easy for that to snowball, right? It's like, oh, well, I can have this candy bar. And don't get me wrong. Listen, I go out and do it. But what I find is like when I start going down that slope, what started off as like, oh, I'm going to have this little piece of chocolate. Now by, next week, 10 days later, I'm having the whole chocolate bar because I've rationalized it. And so it's a slippery slope. And for me, I like to like just have, a routine. Not to say, again, I hear a lot of people say this, but I'm human. We're all human. We fall off the routine. But as soon as you can course correct and get back on, it's the routine that creates the freedom. And a lot of people are like, I want to leave this stuff behind because I want to be free. Well, it's kind of misnomer. It's the daily habits. It's the mindset. It's what you put into your body. It's the things you do. It's continually educating. That all stuff builds, and you build momentum. And so when you break that chain, don't beat yourself up like I did. Just get back on the wagon and remake that routine.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now I want to ask like your favorite top 3 books that you've read that influenced you and in your business.
Top 3 books. Okay. Then Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, as I mentioned. Before that, that's of recently. Before that, I would say The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. And then the third book that has changed, I think back to the beginning, it's funny, at moments in time, these all change, these books. So I'm going back to an old school one. Think and Grow Rich was important for me, and also How to Win Friends and Influence People. Very old school, both of these books. But you can't go wrong. It's good mindset stuff.
Okay, great. And I have my final question now. So imagine you're at home right now and you have a personal safe. And the way to get into the safe, you need to use the fingerprints of your entire hand. You put it onto the wall and it opens up the first door. You go in, and then it requires you to open the lock with a key, and only you have access to this key. So you put in the key, you turn the lock, it opens up the second door. Now you're brought to the third door, which has a briefcase. Only you have access to this combination, and you put in the combination. You open up the lock. It opens up the briefcase, and there's one document in that briefcase. In this document, it's going to have a list of steps or rules that you would leave behind for your family, or maybe people who are around you that you want to have success in their life. If you want to inspire someone, if you want to help someone succeed, what would you write on that document? What would be the steps, and how would you ensure that they'll be able to be successful if they followed just what you had in this one document?
I love the setup to this. The one thing that comes to mind, and Bilal, you let me know if
But that was very helpful what you mentioned. Thank you so much for sharing that. If people want to reach out and work with you or just like contact you, what would be the best way?
a couple of things. Like, so on Facebook and Instagram, let me think. I'm Dustin Mathews with 1 T. Actually, no, on Facebook, I'm Dustin Mathews. Reach out to me, DM me. I'm happy to. A lot of people think, oh, he won't respond. I might not respond in like, a second. on LinkedIn, I'm the Dustin Mathews, again with one T in my last name. And then if you're interested in the offer stuff that we touched on, check out reinventyouroffer.com. If you're interested in the WealthFit stuff, which I know we didn't talk a whole lot about, but like financial education and empowerment and things like that, check out wealthfit.com. And then ultimately, if you want to make life easy, just go check out dustinmatthews.com. It's got all the links there. What was I thinking, Bilal? Just go to dustinmatthews.com. It's got all the links to everything there. Again, one T in Matthews.
Okay, awesome. So I'll be happy to share that at the bottom of the show notes so that people could click on it and visit your website and, get more of your education and your awesome knowledge. So yeah, that's it for the episode. Thank you for coming and, sharing so much of your value.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. So that's it. Way more customers, and talk to you guys on the next one.